Hey everybody. So I want to talk to you in these videos about the differentiation strategy. And what I want to do is first start off by talking about what the differentiation strategy is, and then give you some tips to do that. So as we know, hopefully you know by this point, the differentiation strategy means that we want to make our product distinctive or different in such a manner that customers are willing to ascribe attributes to those things that make them willing to pay more money. So we have to do that differentiation strategy. In doing it, we've got to make our product distinctive, which means we're going to have to add stuff to it that customers like and that they're willing to pay more for. But we can't just throw stuff at it and put new features and stuff into it when it costs us a ton of money, right? So we have to add value that's greater than our costs when we do that. And I'll talk to you in Globus about how you do that. Okay. So we're trying to make our product as different as we can from our competitors on as many dimensions as we possibly can. Okay. So this is just the slide from chapter 4 about the differentiation strategy. It tells you a little bit about what you got to do. So you need to constantly keep cost in mind as you make the increases in your PQ rating. And you also need to keep the market in mind. You don't want to way over differentiate the market. You don't want to have an 8-star product when your closest competitor has a 5.5-star product. You would be way over differentiated, and your customers would look at it and turn away. They might not be willing to pay the premium for that. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing this and I'm going to go to Globus now. So forgive me for y'all having to look at my mug. Let's see. I'm going to share the Globus decision screen. Okay. So here we go. We've got our action capture camera on the left and our UAV drone on the right. So with as was the case when I made the videos for you about the cost leadership strategy, I'm only really going to focus on the drone or excuse me, on the camera rather than focusing on the drone. Okay, so what I want to do is to make my product distinctive or unique in a cost-effective manner. You guys should know by now that when you increase these things, your product enhancement, you're getting more bang for your buck than say if you put money into these things. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just increase performance features and the money that I put into my camera housing, my editing, sharing, and my accessories. So in doing that, I make a 5-star product. Remember, strategy has to be intentional, incremental, consistent, and logical. So in implementing this strategy, what I'm trying to do is incrementally increase my PQ rating. I'm not going to go all the way to 6 or 7 or 8 stars. I just want to out differentiate the market and make my product a little better than the market's product is. Okay. So when I increased my PQ rating to 5 stars, what you'll see is that I only increased my cost by about 20 bucks as I did that. Okay. So my cost went from I increased my cost about 10 bucks when I did that. Increased PQ rating by 25% from 4 stars to 5 stars, but my cost only went up incrementally. Okay, so now I'm going to look at marketing for my camera. I think it's fairly reasonable to say that if I increased my PQ rating by 25%, then I probably should increase my price by 25%. And doing a little math using my handy dandy phone calculator, I determined that the selling price expected for that drone should be 200, or for that camera rather, should be $281. Now that's just the expected price, right? What we're actually after is we're actually after a premium. We want our customers to be willing to pay more than expected. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a little small premium on that product. I'm going to take it to 290 instead of 281. I'm going to go to 290. Okay. So for product, our projected support expenditures per unit sold. Last year, the industry average was at $6. I think I probably want to increase that and make it a little bit more. But before I do that, I'm going to increase my advertising budget. And I'm going to just take, I don't know, let's just match the number of local retail shops. I don't care how you determine what your spend is going to be. I'm pretty easy in what I do here. I'm just trying to make things logical and I'm trying to be consistent. So what I did is I just took the number of local retail shops and I'm using 3 million in advertising because I've got 3,000 retail shops, 2.5 million in advertising because I've got 2,500 retail shops. And for my website displays, the website displays for Latin America were already at $900,000. And if I was following the same pattern, I would have put that at half of my advertising budget, like I did for website displays in North America and Europe, Africa, and Asia Pacific. But I don't want to decrease my spend on website displays. I had it last year at 900,000. If I decrease it to 500,000, what you'll see is that my demand goes up. So I either want to keep it the same and it was at 900,000, or I want to increase it to 1,000 because that's the minimum. When I say 1,000, what I really mean is 1 million because again, we're working in thousands of dollars. For sales promotions, even if we're running a differentiation strategy, we still have to move our product. So I'm going to go to 2 weeks and 15%. Now, in this, I want to point you guys towards your participants guide. Basically, what that tells you, if you look at your participants guide, I'm not going to pull it up, but there is a place right in the participants guide that it says that essentially a 10% discount doesn't do you any good, right? It has to be at least 15%. So I'm just going to move my sales promotions to 2 weeks and 15%. Okay. I think it's also fairly reasonable to expect that if I'm selling a premium quality product, I need to stand behind my product. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double my warranty from 60 days to 120 days. And of course, you see as I did that, that my expected warranty claim rate goes up from 6.5% to 14%, right? That happens. It's just part of it. Okay. So I'll probably need to put my retailer support budget at about $8. That's 33% higher than the industry average. So I'm just going to use my up arrow here and get it close to about $8. I'll come back and refine it a little later to actually calculate how much it should be and put it in there and make it match exactly $8. But remember, these are just projections. It's based on if we sell this many units and if we spend this much money, then this is how much we'll spend per unit. I'm wanting to project that out at $8. Okay. Oh yeah, there's one other thing I forgot to do on R&D expenditures for my camera. Research and development, if I'm running a differentiation strategy, I need first mover advantage. So I probably want to increase my spend on research and development. You can go all the way to $50 million if you want to, or excuse me, $50 million. Yes, I'm right, 50 million. But the problem if you do that is you're going all the way. Once you go all the way, there's no more that you can do. So I'm going to go about halfway. I'm going to go to 36 million on my camera. That obviously increases my product research and development cost to 4173, which increases my total camera production and assembly cost to 193. Okay. So we've still got good demand. We've got 862,700 units of demand for our product. We've looked at our marketing. We've got our spends where we want them to be. Let's go into compensation and facilities. All right. Here's where I'm going to ask you to lean on your participants guide. There are videos, right? And it tells you about this in the video. You can press play on the video if you like, and you can scroll down and you can look at the decisions. Okay. Here's something I want you to look at. The policy of prior management was to have identical compensation packages for workers assembling cameras and workers assembling drones. However, you have full discretion to have different compensation packages. Pronounced differences between the packages for camera and drone workers can generate disrest and unsatisfaction. You don't want unsatisfaction because unsatisfied workers do not work well. Okay. Um, when you talk about raising the base pay, the maximum percentage increase in 1 year is 10%. Maximum percentage cut in 1 year is 15%. Base pay reductions act to reduce PAT productivity. Here's the comment I want you to read. Annual increases in base pay of 2% or more lead to higher levels of productivity, chiefly because higher annual base wages help attract and retain workers with better skills and work habits. I'm going to read between the lines here and tell you that means a 1% increase doesn't do anything for worker satisfaction. It doesn't do anything for worker productivity. So since our workers expect at least a 2% raise, I'm going to give them a 2% raise. All right. We also changed on our camera, we changed our warranty. We doubled it, which increased our expected claim rate. So I need to do something to offset that. And what I'm going to do is increase the assembly quality incentive to $3. It was $2.40. Now it's $3. You have to be careful with that assembly quality incentive because if you put too much incentive on there, what can actually happen is your workers might slow down. Okay, so I'm going to just do $3. For attendance bonus, if I'm running a company that's running a differentiation strategy, I want to be known as the employer of choice. Okay. All I know is last year's industry average was $800 per worker for attendance, $2,000 for fringe benefits. I'm going to incrementally increase that. You'll notice if you watch the videos for cost leadership, I did the exact same thing for my workers. Some things are the same no matter what strategy you're running. You want the most productive workers that you can get. Okay. I'm going to put a little bit more into productivity and improvement training. Okay. So I'm going to put those at $2,000 per worker. I'm also going to come over to corporate citizenship because I have to ask the question of, is treating our workers well, is that consistent with what a company that's running a differentiation strategy would want to do? And I would say yes. So I'm going to click the same options for implementing the on-site childcare facility and the cafeteria for my workers. And I'm also going to invest in additional safety equipment and improve lighting and ventilation in my factory. And I'm going to institute a supplier code of conduct because those are all things that are consistent with what a company running a differentiation strategy should do, right? Now we have some other options, and what I'm going to say on those other options, the charitable contributions and the green initiatives and renewable energy, let's just press pause on those for now because you're making a pretty big change in the amount that you invested in corporate social responsibility last year. The reality is if we look at the industry, cash outlays for corporate social responsibility and citizenship last year and the year before were nothing. This year, we're spending 7.1 million, right? We're doing stuff that makes sense. It boils down to $7 per unit. So that's probably enough, okay? So now let's go back to compensation and facilities. What you do want to do is you still want to have an efficient manufacturing facility. Having an efficient manufacturing facility is critical if you're running a cost leadership strategy, but it's even more critical if you're running a differentiation strategy. The fact of the matter is, no matter what strategy you're running, it is about benefits, right? What benefits do you get from the resources that you possess? You can't afford for your workstations to sit idle, but you also can't afford to have an inefficient manufacturing facility. You don't want your workers sitting idle. You don't want your workstations sitting idle, but you want to have a manufacturing facility that operates leanly and cleanly no matter what your strategy is. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and put in those workstations. I'm going to stop here because I just realized I've run longer on this video than I really wanted to. So I'm probably going to only have 2 videos for this particular strategy for doing the differentiation strategy. But I'll come back in the next video and kind of tie things all together, okay? All right, I'll talk to you